Did you know that basketball only had 13 rules to abide by at its creation? When you consider basketball today, or even any major sport today, with all the flags thrown in the NFL or technical fouls given out in the NBA like candy, it's lunacy to think that basketball only had 13 rules at its creation. It was invented in 1891 by James Naismith, which isn't exactly breaking news, but it's worth noting anyway. While basketball is an amazing sport that has evolved over the years and has legends and names that are well known across the world today, the history of the sport, particularly the NBA, isn't all flowers and sunshine. The NBA before the 80s came about with all the legends we know of today was a nightmare. Most franchises were not doing well, and the league was full of drug abuse. The league was in trouble until the 80s brought about new talent, aka Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. More than 450 million people play basketball across the world today, and that is thanks to the stardom of the likes of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. However, if it weren't for Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, there's no telling where the NBA would be today. That goes as far as influencing players like LeBron James, who was majorly inspired by Magic Johnson to be the player he is today. The NBA wasn't the first professional league to play organized basketball in America at a professional level, but it was the last one since it became so successful. My sources come from worldofbasketball.org, usatoday.com, sportskita.com, realbuzz.com, and nba.com. The early stages of basketball. The first pro league was formed in 1898, known as the NBL, or National Basketball League. It only lasted 5 years before disbanding due to several other loosely organized leagues throughout the United States. One of the first pro teams was the original Celtics, formed in New York City in 1915. The Harlem Globetrotters were founded in 1927 as an exhibition team that specialized in on-court antics and unprecedented ball handling skills for amusement. In 1949, the NBA is formed. The reformed NBL and the Basketball Association of America collaborated to create the NBA. The Boston Celtics, along with 16 other teams, were part of the league at its creation, and the Celtics went on to dominate the 50s all the way into the 60s. Wilt Chamberlain, who was originally on the Warriors, was a dominant center that joined the Lakers, and that would create the rivalry between the Lakers and Celtics, with Bill Russell and Chamberlain leading the way for many years. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar took the league by storm with his unstoppable skyhook shot in the 1970s, which helped breathe some life into the league as well. The NBA was in trouble before the 80s, however. With the rivalry of the Celtics-Lakers all but gone, the NBA was in deep trouble. Issues like racism, drug abuse, failing attendance, and fights breaking out every other day plagued the league in the 70s. Many of the league's biggest stars at the time, like Spencer Haywood, John Lucas, David Thompson, and Bernard King, were addicted to drugs. The LA Times estimated that up to 75% of the NBA was addicted to cocaine. Fights would break out every other night, which was fuel for the racism already being thrown at the league. And considering that the NFL was taking off and the MLB was still America's sport, the NBA needed something to rekindle their fire fast. But before the saviors of the NBA came along, there was Dr. J. We can't talk about the history of basketball without Julius Erving, so before we move on, let's talk about Dr. J. While the NBA was in darker times, Erving was making a name for himself in the streets of Rucker Park in Harlem. Eventually going to the ABA, he would go on to be the best player in the league, winning multiple scoring titles, MVP awards, and ABA championships. After the ABA-NBA merger, Dr. J would go on to continue to grow his legend through word of mouth, since most of his games were not televised. Despite the NBA's troubles in the 70s, Erving was a class act and a professional on and off the court. His image aligned with what the NBA wanted to represent at that time, so Julius's character led to heaps of endorsements to come his way. Now, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Michigan State with Magic beats Indiana State with Bird in the 1979 NCAA championship game, and that would spark the long-time rivalry between the two. The Boston Celtics got Bird, and the Lakers got Magic. And some would say this was extremely important for the league for it to work out this way, as Boston got the tall, skilled white guy, and the LA Lakers got the tall, showman, black guard to go play with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar under the bright lights of LA. Their arrival changed the league forever, and the cities they were a part of created a perfect fit and the perfect storyline for the greatest rivalry in NBA history. David Stern became commissioner of the NBA in 1984 and helped bring the league into order. Along with the help of Bird and Magic lighting the league on fire and them being good role models at the same time, they revived the NBA and basketball by turning the league on its head from being seen as a drug-infested, unprofessional league to a serious, enjoyable, fun sports league to watch. Michael Jordan arrives. And if Magic and Larry saved the NBA, MJ took it and championed it to a global level. He utterly dominated professional basketball in every facet of it, starting with winning the 1992 Olympic gold with Team USA and continuing by winning 6 championships in 7 years with the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan had become a global superstar and took the NBA and basketball with him, both of them increasing in popularity thanks to him. MJ paved the way for what it was like to truly be a sports icon in America. Since television was much more available during his time, everyone knew who MJ was and were able to watch him, unlike Julius Erving. Now, basketball after Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant arrives. Kobe Bryant was an MJ superfan that modeled his entire game after MJ, all the way to the point that MJ himself admitted to it. Kobe was the next in line for the face of the NBA, and he delivered, winning multiple championships with the Lakers and Shaq. However, the NBA wasn't as reliant on Kobe as it was MJ for their entertainment. The league was much more competitive now. It had many more teams, and thanks to all the previous stars before him, teams had actual fan bases now, people to root for other than just Michael Jordan. And with more talent in the league, thanks to the increased interest from 20 years prior, we can thank Magic and Larry for that. Kobe would go on to win 2 more championships at the end of the decade. And while Kobe may not have been as successful as MJ in his career, it was really his mentality that made him such a legend. He worked harder than anyone else to perfect his craft, and he would let you know that he did too. It's a mentality that people carry themselves with thanks to him every day, Mamba mentality. It means to attack what's in front of you with passion and purpose, without fear and doubt, and without an ounce of quit. He showed it every night he was out on the court, and millions of people across the world resonated with that. And that's what makes Kobe the legend that he is. LeBron James, Stephen Curry in the modern NBA. LeBron is the new MJ or Kobe, dominant on the court and as big as the NBA outside of it. While LeBron became the modern ideal basketball player in terms of physical capabilities and size, Curry completely revolutionized the game of basketball. Children across the world want to shoot deep threes thanks to the likes of him, and 7-foot centers in the NBA are expected to be able to make a 3 thanks to him. The NBA is completely different because of these two. And compared to the 80s and 90s NBA that many hold nostalgia towards, the NBA is very different than it was. More threes are taken, lighter fouls are given, and less fights are had. This is a mixture of more talent in the league and evolution of the game, along with statistics starting to take prominence across major sports. NBA, and with that said, NFL teams are going for it less on fourth down, or they're going for it more on fourth down. NBA players are taking less mid-range shots, and MLB pitchers are playing less games. Some would say that statistics have taken a part taken away a part of the game that people loved about it. However, this is only natural and it comes with anything after some time. Comes with time for anything, I meant. The modern NBA now is also so popular that it drives up so much revenue that regular starting players for any team are commonly making more money than Patrick Ewing did on an NBA contract. And Patrick Ewing was a superstar for the New York Knicks, one of the biggest franchises in the NBA. To summarize, basketball has come a long way from its roots. While the NBA is great today and has legends that came from it, it took a lot of time and luck for it to be in the position it is in today. If it weren't for Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, who knows where the league would be. So make sure you thank those two before you go to bed tonight if you're a basketball fan. Those two truly changed basketball forever and are even early versions of what the NBA is today. Tall, skilled, athletic athletes that can do everything on the court. Basketball has evolved over the past 100 years, and the professional level faced some controversy in its early stages, but the sport is more popular than it's ever been, and players are better than they've ever been. So it's in a good spot and has grown healthily despite some naysayers saying otherwise.